Take two. Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Tonight, from The Truth About Guns, meet the 375 Raptor, a heavy hitting short action cartridge. First, let me apologize for last night. I didn't get a chance to make an episode because I had a very, very bad migraine. I didn't even go to my normal job, so I didn't do anything. I just kind of writhed in pain. So, what is a 375 Raptor? 375 Raptor is pretty much a short action, so like an AR-10 style rifle, answer to the 300 Blackout. So this is a very strong hunting candidate. If you look at the ballistics on what it'll actually do, the ballistics show that it is very capable with a 275 grain bullet or 235 grain bullet or a 270 grain bullet for hunting deer, elk, moose, that type of thing. That's kind of a given with a 375. But what makes this interesting is, let me scroll back up here and show you the bullet comparisons. So one of the first things I noticed about this is because I'm very much anti 300 Blackout, mostly because I own 5.56 rifles. I have several of them. I like the caliber. I own 7.62 by 39 also. And between those two, a 300 Blackout would make a kaboom. Okay, so in my home, I have no 300 Blackout. I have had the pleasure of shooting 300 Blackout, and I've even got to shoot it suppressed. And it makes perfect sense for a suppressor candidate. Now, this reminds me of, way back in the day, my Uncle Phil did some things like loading black powder in pistol and rifle cartridges of the day. And like the 4570 and the 45 long Colt. That's actually what they were originally designed for. But he had the know-how to do that. And with a 300 Blackout, when you start looking at the subsonic rounds, I always thought that was as some sort of space magic until someone explained some stuff to me. Because I am a curious person, and when it comes to guns, I really am curious. They use pistol powder in this, so it makes more sense now. It's not as combustive, meaning it's not as energetic as like a rifle powder, because it's trying to get as much out of the cartridge and get as much velocity as it possibly can without breaking the sound barrier. So that's where the 375R comes into, or Raptor. Okay, so now picture a 308 or an AR-10 style rifle, but in a suppressor host, like a 10-inch version. Now this could be used for deer, elk, whatever you wanted to. Okay, and the ballistics I just showed you are on a 16-inch barrel, which gives it that awesome, actual lethality on deer and elk and moose and that type of thing if you wanted to use it. Drawbacks I see. Number one drawback I see is the projectiles. 375 projectiles have always been expensive. Maybe if this drives the market demand more, they'll start to decrease in cost for just the projectiles. Now the brass. So what's different about this is that you're using a 308 brass and you're just necking it up and then trimming it down, okay, for a 375. Now why is that significant? The kaboom thing I mentioned before shouldn't, by my assessment, be possible with this round. Meaning that I shouldn't be able to take a 375 Raptor round, drop it in a 308 without it stopping the gun from going into battery. That's a big tell. Okay? 300 Blackout, if you buy head stamped rounds, they're stamped with 300 Blackout or 300 AAC or whatever they want to call it, right? But we all know that you can take the 5.56 and with some work, you can reload it into 300 Blackout. That's what it was designed to do. So this is the same thing with 308 cartridges or brass. So you're going to have to flare it out. That'll be one sizing operation if you're a hand loader. And then you're going to have to trim it. That's going to be the next one. And then you're probably going to have to run the sizing again. Now, What is that? What do I mean by it's not going to go in there? Well, if you look at the 300 blackout and you see where the neck is got pretty much no taper, so it's not really extreme, like, or not a bottleneck, okay? Not a pure bottleneck. So what happens is, because the brass is shorter than a 5.56, the bullet, when you load the whole cartridge in the chamber, from here to here in the chamber is pretty much the same width around as this. Extend that up with the bullet. Now the bullet will make it probably just to where the throat into the rifling. Okay, so this will chamber in the chamber. Now, why do I not believe that will happen with a 308? Look at where the neck ends on the 375 and the 308. See that taper right here? Where this is as big around as the bullet. See how big around the bullet is? What should happen is this should come into contact, come up, run right into the neck of the chamber and stop, because there's no way it can go any farther. That means that if you look at how much travel this is, this much difference from here to here, meaning like this much to here, from where the 375 back, is probably going to hold the bolt open. So you're going to know this is not supposed to go in a 308. I say that because the bullet is huge and the neck isn't as far back as it would be with the 300 blackout to make it fit in the rifle. So this is interesting because now you have a suppressor host that may be able to do deer and elk hunting very close. Not that a 300 blackout couldn't, but it would be a little more humane in my opinion because you have more kinetics behind it. You're going to have really exaggerated ballistic curves if you're shooting subsonic. And anyone that uses those calibers is going to know that. But at its full strength, it may be a surprise to see what the bullet does, because there's a lot the 375 had going for it back in the day. There's a reason why it was there. Our predecessors, all in the 2A, you know, the 6.5 Grendel, everybody's a huge fan of it, except for me. I like the 308. I've always been able to do what I needed to with the 308. I understand it's new, cool, whatever. The ballistics on it are great. I don't like the fact that I can get like 3 bullet weights for it. Okay, that's why I don't have a Grendel. That's why I don't have Creedmoor, is because you can get 3 bullet weights that are ones I'd be interested in. Okay, so what they're doing here is awesome, because we can't always innovate with new technology, brand new everything, but we can do it with calibers. What I'm afraid of is that there's going to be one vendor, and only one vendor, who's going to make the stuff for this, and it's going to be just like the 300 blackout or anything else. Until someone starts picking up and the market starts driving the demand for this, this is just another Wildcat. Not that I have anything wrong with 8 Wildcats, but I think the 243 probably is about what a 6.5 Grendel, or not Winchester, 6.5 Creedmoor is, with the right load. Take it or leave it. I know that the 6.5 Creedmoor guys are all crying. They're going to say, no, that's not true. It's closer to the 308, but it's more wind forgiving. Yes, it is. So is the 243. It's still, the problem is always going to be bullet weight. And if you shoot enough with your rifle and the round, and you know your loads well enough, it really isn't going to matter. Rumble, share, subscribe, be great. And once again, I apologize. Migraine just wouldn't let me get up to do a lot yesterday.